Yo, 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 it's your boy Colin, aka Colin Trades CSP, back with you with another video. I hope everyone had a great trading week this past coming week, as I did. So, with this past coming week, we did breach all time highs, and the overall market pushed to new things that we haven't seen in a while. So, it was good and glad to see. Individual names pushed to new all-time highs, as we saw. AMD and other stocks are now close to the all-time highs, and with earnings this coming week, starting with Tesla on Wednesday after the close, this gets a little bit interesting to see if this allows for the market to push to new all-time highs, or those individual names to catch up to the S&P and the QQQs, tech names. So it was a great overall market, but when it came to the macro news, when it comes to Iran and the Middle East, unfortunately, this past weekend, we were informed that the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed and negotiations were denied. So unfortunately, it looks like we might be gapping down come Monday if nothing is resolved. So it looks like as of right now, Sunday at 2:45 p.m., negotiations were declined due to the U.S. basically with the nuclear enrichment, uranium, stuff like that. That was declined from the Iranian president. So it looks like new negotiations need to be formed, which will be starting on Monday. But overall, the news is just news. We're down less than 1% as of the weekend market. And so we should see some interesting volatility come in on Monday, especially after pushing to new all-time highs. A minor pullback really wouldn't do too much to this overall uptrend. So we'll take a look at the charts, see exactly what can we play when it comes to this pullback. Is this a dip buy opportunity, or is this a potential sell off from the top to new lows? So something we need to pay attention to this coming week when it comes to the economic news, and then we just go from there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sit back and relax. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button if you guys enjoy, and hit the bell notification so you guys can get notified exactly when I post these videos. So once again, if you're new here, I like to start off with the economic data. So looking at this coming week, as of right now, Monday, no information, nothing is scheduled. U.S. retail sales on Tuesday. We got business inventories, pending home sales, really nothing when it comes to that. Wednesday, nothing is scheduled. Initial jobless claims on Thursday, S&P flash U.S. services PMI, manufacturers PMI. So Thursday looks to be a little bit something, but nothing crazy. And then finishing off Friday with consumer sentiment. So this does look to be interesting, but overall, nothing serious when it comes to the overall economic data. Of course, the macro data will be the main eyeballs that we'll be paying attention to with negotiations starting on Monday. All right. Next is earnings. As I was told, as I said, we do have earnings season starting. As last week we had the banks report last week. This week, it looks to be really is the airlines, and the main one I'm going to be paying attention to will be the Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, and American Airlines. The reason why I'll be wanting to pay attention to that is to see how exactly is these oil prices and oil demand is affecting the overall flights. Are they being postponed? Are prices being increased? And how are they getting affected by what's happening in the Middle East? So those are going to be something I want to pay attention to. And then, of course, the baby old Tesla happening on Wednesday after the close. We want to make sure that those numbers come out right. And let's see if Elon mentions anything about the IPO of SpaceX. So that one's going to be very interesting after the close coming on Wednesday. Other than that, I mean, there's really nothing that I'll be paying attention to outside of the airlines and Tesla. Maybe Boeing, AT&T, Next Era Energy. That one looks interesting, and maybe Intel with the government heavily invested into that. So, other than that, really nothing going on when it comes to earnings on that. When you're looking at the overall weekend market, as like I always say in the past videos, I take all this information with a grain of salt, as the actual futures market doesn't open until 6 p.m. Eastern time. But as of right now, looking at this weekend's market, we're down less than 1%. So nothing crazy, I would say, especially with this such a move that happened on Friday. A minor pullback gives some opportunity for a potential dip buy if the news in Iran stays stable and all remain bullish. If we can get a deal, then this will allow for a dip buy opportunity to send to new all-time highs. So something to make a note of that. Not financial advice, of course. So like I said, as we saw the Iranian news, basically what happened on first, it was Saturday. I saw on the news that the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed again. And then come in on Sunday, basically denying the negotiations, denying the deal and peace talks because of the nuclear information and uranium. So basically going telltale. So that was basically what happened on Sunday. And then, of course, we will get new negotiations starting on Monday. So, with that being said, if that negotiations go good, Monday can be a extremely volatile day, as we're seeing a potential gap down. If the deal gets done on Monday, or if good talks happen, then we can potentially push off that gap down. If, of course, the news is bad from that deal, then do we continue to move to the downside, as we still have some gaps to fill on SPY and QQQ. So that looks to be what's happening and what's going to be happening these coming weeks. So just something to pay attention to and keep note of, as like I said, there's no economic data, but we do have some news in the Middle East that could skew with the overall trend in this market. So something, of course, like I said, keep a note of going into this new coming week. And then when it comes to the stock market, starting with ES, really it is very interesting. As you can see, we've just been running since the 31st of March. Just overall uptrend looked to be just under 13% to the upside from the down. What a move, I could say, from the ES and NQ. But with this recent news, we were informed on Sunday, something to keep an eye on is if we do open below this all-time high support, something I want to make sure to keep an eye on is this 69.80 area as a potential bounce. But of course, the all-time high support is something I want to make sure to pay attention to as well, as it was tested here, and we haven't tested it since we've broken through it on, what was it, Wednesday. So something to keep an eye on, I want to make sure, is if we test this 7,030, do we bounce to new highs? Or if we come under that, can we bounce at that 69.80 for potential dip buy opportunity? And of course, on the flip side, on the bearish tone, the bears, if we do decide to break under 69.80, that's when you basically start to think, okay, does the trend reverse? Does the trend look to be coming off a top, and do we now make new lows? I wouldn't be saying anything until I would say we break under this 67.75 for a potential reversal. Because as of right now, we just look to be making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and it would take a lot to make basically not make another higher low. But as of right now, we're just an overall uptrend. If you zoom out and just basically just continue to play these levels and making new highs. If we just do decide to break down, I wouldn't be looking bearish until we get back under 67.75 for potential dip buy opportunity. Now looking at NQ looks to be a little bit better. As you can see, we did break this 13% and start to zoom out right here. So well over freaking 15-17% to the upside. A very nice squeeze to the upside. Same old deal when it comes to ES. If this decides to gap down on Monday, we want to see if 26,365 holds as it was recently, all-time highs, as a potential bounce opportunity to new highs. Now, if we do decide to continue to move to the downside, then 25,945 will be the next potential bounce to see if we can bounce off that to new highs. Now, looking at BTC, as I mentioned, I really cannot be bullish on Bitcoin. Like I say in every single video, if BTC is not a clear break over 75,000, I cannot be completely bullish on this overall Bitcoin as of right now. If you start to zoom out, you look at the weekly time frame, this looks like it's going to be closing. We have 5 hours left. If this closes under 75,000, in my own thought, I think this could potentially come right back down to 60,000 as it did before here. Rejected, came down. As it broke this 75,000 area, rejected, tipped all the way to the downside. So to me personally, if we do not get a clean break over 75,000, then we are most likely going to retest 60,000. Now, of course, with on the daily, this looks to be completely bullish in a structural move to the upside, as we're making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher highs, higher highs, higher highs, and now made a new higher high at 78,000. If this 74 can hold, don't be surprised for a push over 80,000. But again, with 75,000 such a very key level, I want to make sure that this does hold so that we can push back up to 80,000 and to then maybe make into new highs. If this doesn't hold, then I wouldn't be surprised we start to break down 73 and then back under 70,000 as it will break of this overall trend and then start to look at potential downside moves. But overall, the market looks healthy with this pullback. If we do decide to get a pullback, now you got to ask yourself, is this a dip buy opportunity or is this a potential reversal in the trend? As you can see, when it comes to the S&P and QQQ, we do have a long way until that confirmation of a reversal is in place, but it's something to, of course, keep a note of. And then when it comes to Bitcoin and the crypto names, they do have some bullish catalysts as we do have some potential stuff coming up to allow this to push to the upside. So that is some bullish news. But overall, if we're not over some key levels, then you got to ask yourself, is this a reversal or is this just another dip buy opportunity for new longs? So that's that. But overall, I would just make sure when it comes to this new trading week to trade smart and trade safe. As you saw, no really serious economic data when it comes to CPI, no employment rates or anything like that. We do have initial jobless claims coming in this week, but it's not really a big deal when it comes to the overall market movers, but it's something to keep an eye on and keep note of. But when it comes to negotiations that are happening on a Monday, that is something very important that will probably move the market. And you do not want to be stuck in a serious position trying to trade a certain direction once that information does come out, because it can stop you out very quickly with smalls and very fast wicks that can basically stop you out instantly. So it's something to keep a note is that starting Monday and Tuesday, as the negotiation deals start to go place, make sure to basically trade in smart and trade safe, because we're going to have some probably insane volatility come out on Monday. So with that, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's make sure to start this week off hot, finish the month. We only have 2 months left of April. Let's finish this month off strong and make sure to secure these bags, because you never know. These news in the Middle East can fluctuate your trading. So just trade smart and trade safe. Let's make sure to secure that bag. And I hope you guys have a very good trading week. Peace.